This is the American Indians, Indigenous Peoples Truce. Justice for all. The most dangerous show on media anywhere. Hello, Leslie. How are you?
Jalito, how are you?
I'm good. You look awfully beautiful tonight.
Oh, thank you. You know, all the trouble I went through to get beautiful this evening.
Oh,
Thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm still here to talk about it.
Well, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. I'm very well, thank you.
Good.
Should we do our land acknowledgement?
I was just going to ask you to do that for us.
All right, let's do that. Let's pause for a moment to acknowledge the traditional stewards of the lands that we reside on, and especially the ancestors, descendants, and all indigenous people who live now and have ever lived on this land we call Turtle Island.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, we got some special guests here tonight. Some very special guests. And I'm ready to get started with this broadcast because we got a lot to talk about.
All right, let's bring everyone in. Hi, everyone.
Hello. Look like we got my good friend and brother all the way from South Dakota, Chief Henry Red Cloud of the Lakota people. And I think he's on Pine Ridge. That's where the Oglala Lakota live, right? How you doing?
Pine Ridge, right in the heart of Indian country.
There you go. And who's that pretty lady sitting beside you, Henry?
This is my wife, Gloria. She's also Lakota and part Puerto Rican.
Okay. How you doing, Gloria?
Good.
I'm so happy that you're with us tonight.
Yes.
And now we got the ghost sitting right below me. my brother is Cherokee and Sicilian. His name is Ramon Grimaldi. What's going on, bro?
Oh, you know, the same old foibles of life. How is everybody? Chief Henry, it's good to see your face and put a face to the voice. And Gloria, hello, how are you? Good to see you.
Good.
And Leslie, it's good to see you after 3 weeks.
Yep, I know. It's been a while.
I was trying to figure if the Bermuda Triangle got you or what.
You'll see me here almost every Wednesday, though, if you're looking for me.
Okay. So, Ramon.
Yes, sir.
What do you think? Take a good look at Gloria. Who does she look like? She looks like my cousin Vanessa.
Yes.
And Vanessa
Yes.
is from Old San Juan, Puerto Rico. She's Taino, Gloria.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So, shall we get started with this fireside chat tonight?
Yes, let's get started. I just want to offer to the audience members, if you'd like a question particularly answered by any of the panelists or all of us to answer it, please post your questions right now. But we're going to start off with a subject that's very, very dear to all of our hearts, and that's missing, murdered Indigenous women. And we're going to talk about that epidemic that, has now been some light has been shed upon it now that we have Deb Haaland in office, but this is still an epidemic within Indian country. And so we wanted to talk about it and give some specifics and statistics about it. In particular, and I know with the Red Clouds that if you live on the res, this is a very common thing. The res being kind of a remote area where a lot of the youth, and this is males, women's, and part of our two-spirit people go missing from these communities.
Mm-hmm.
So what has happened a lot of times is because it is in such a remote area, there are certain highways to connect these areas, and most of the missing go missing because of these highway systems that have been a pathway for predators, in particular, waiting for these incidents to occur. And like everybody who's young, most of them, no one thinks anything's gonna happen to them. But we're just now discovering so many missing bodies of our people now because it was being unearthed. And it goes under the radar because it becomes a federal offense instead of a local offense because it's on the res. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, can I interject something?
Sure.
My good friend, who just passed away about a month and a half ago, Clyde Belcourt, who was one of the original founders of AIM, told me something along with Spike Moss, that they had a rash, they're still having a rash of this up in Minneapolis, Minnesota. They're finding women that have been stripped of their clothing, murdered, raped, and they put them up on lampposts so the world can see them. They haven't done a daggone thing about that. And then you have these people that live on the outskirts of Minneapolis. A lot of the native people have to go in town to get their groceries. And a lot of them, they don't have transportation, so they walk. There's been a rash of what they call roadkill, that they would just run over these people and leave them on the road. So we've been under attack since the late 1490s when the Europeans invaded us, and it continues today. Just something I want you all to think about. So, Gloria, what's your take on this?
I just say it's a lot of men and women that come up missing. Men and women.
Mm-hmm.
And they're young. They're young, and they don't really have the guidance to guide them. So they don't get into this. These traps. That they set for them, because
True.
It's scary. On the res, it's scary because if you don't have a ride, you end up walking, and then sometimes we walk into the night.
Mm-hmm.
And it's bad. It's super bad that somebody comes along and steals us, and we don't get found. We don't know where those people are still today, but there's a couple girls that went missing in the last couple months here, and they found them, and they were dead. They were already dead.
Okay, so
I was told that there was that in some of these areas there was a bus that people can go on, but the bus only runs at certain times.
Yes.
Let's say if you get a job in town and you work until 9 o'clock shift, there's no bus to bring you home.
No.
I mean, that seems very designed, in my opinion. You know,
Yeah.
knowing that this is just so prominent within the community, why wouldn't they have a system or cabs or something like that taking people home to the res? Why is it that that bus stops exactly at a certain time, knowing that there is a very sensitive time period, a very vulnerable time when somebody could be taken?
Mhm. I don't know about that, but I know the busing system only runs until about 11 at night here. And then after that, you can't get a ride unless you call somebody or you pay somebody to come get you.
Yeah, I
And
know.
it's a pretty struggle for all of us here, you know, especially if we have to work and we have to be at work and stuff like that, you know. And it's hard because some of us don't have cars and some of us don't have, you know, even family that could come get us, you know. So they're just looking for a ride right in front of their job or yeah, I'm originally from Rapid City, South Dakota, and when I was younger, when I was like 15 years old, I was walking home and some guy scared me and chased me all the way up to a car that was just sitting at a stoplight, and I asked him to give me a ride home. I just jumped in that car. I didn't stop. I jumped in, you know. So it might have saved my life from, you know, getting hurt or killed or, you know.
Mhm.
I know you can't walk around on the streets at night,
No.
and Rapid City is really a bad place to walk around at nighttime. You can't walk around there at night unless you know somebody that can come get you, or you know, especially if you have a nighttime job, you know, because
Yeah.
I had a couple nighttime jobs, so yeah, I was always, you know, calling the cab or calling one of my friends or somebody to come get me because I didn't want to walk at night. But yeah, I had experiences like that when I was only 15 years old, and I just jumped up to that car and I told him I just jumped inside of it and I said, "Can you give me a ride home?" Because I was so scared because you know this guy was following me for about 5 blocks.
Yeah.
So
Gloria, how much does it cost to take a cab from like this from the city area to back to the res?
mm,
Rapid from
we're
Rapid.
over 120 miles away from Rapid City.
Oh
So
my goodness.
yeah, so that we see a lot of we see a lot of women getting followed, especially at nighttime and stuff like that. And then driving home, even if you're driving, you know, you could be stopped by somebody that's just following you, you know, to see where you live or, you know, bother you. You know, it's been a real ride for all these MMIWs, and I feel for people that lost, you know, family members and stuff like that, you know. So, and I know that it's not a good thing that we should be searching for them, you know. We should be out looking for them, you know, because when the two girls came missing down here, they went out like 2 weeks later and started searching, you know, and it took them over a month to find one, and they knew she was already dead because they found her back at the same place. So it might have been somebody in the family that did this to her, you know, or a family,
Let
friend of the family.
let's talk about that too. Let's talk about the fact that some the violence that occurs sometimes within the family, and that the you're talking about it took them 2 weeks to start the investigation.
2 weeks to get out some people to go search for her, to go
Two
search.
weeks. Two
Yes, two
weeks.
weeks. Yes, it took 2 weeks.
You got to realize something, Leslie. I've been to Rapid City. I've been to Pine Ridge, and it is a big place out there in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Um, I remember when I went out there, it was about the first time I went out there, it was about 17 years ago. And we had collected clothes and toys and food and medical supplies and that type of stuff to take out to Pine Ridge, to Yankton, Kyle, Rosebud, Cheyenne River. And at night, it's scary out there. You know, I'm crazy enough to get out and walk anytime. But for our women, our young women, and even our older women, It is so dangerous. It really is. Chief Henry, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's really terrible that this has to happen. We here in our area, we're 120 miles from any kind of fresh food, all the resources, all the things we need for our homes, like 120 miles off. So I heard, cases of women being followed back from Rapid City, and the other vehicle was trying to push them off the road, and because we're in a rural area. Once you leave Rapid City about 20 miles out, there's nobody. There's no like that. So, people lose their lives. Women lose their lives being followed by non-natives. Rapid City,
I think
talking about racism, racial, it's pretty bad. There's out of the 78,000 inhabitants there in Rapid City, 12% of them are Native Americans from the Cheyenne River, from Rosebud, and from the Pine Ridge. They all live within their community, and racism is really bad. Just last week there was this hotel, Grand Gateway Hotel, that
saw that.
that they marched on, and because of racism, they said that there was no brown-skinned Native Americans allowed on that property, and that so it went huge. There was demonstrations, walks, awareness around racism, how racism has been really affecting Indian country. It's been terrible for the MMIW, especially the Native women. Our women are unique, beautiful, and the non-native men, they'll do anything, take advantage, push them off the road, and all of these things just to hurt them, steal them from the community. It's terrible here. We're being in a rural area here. It's pretty bad. So women here are starting to become aware, so they go together. Our 3-4 women go to town together. Nobody goes alone. Our people just don't go out at night anymore. They don't travel. They try to hurry and get home. If she has to go to town, she hurries and she gets home before the sun goes down. She it's terrible that we have to do that in our own country. We have to do this. It's terrible. Plus we have all the other things that follow it. Gang violence, meth, super meth, alcohol, and all this stuff to follow that. Some of these non-natives, they're on that stuff, and they're harassing native, women, young adults, small 10, 12-year-old boys and girls. They're terrible.
Trying to get them hooked on those drugs.
Yeah.
Something else too that bothers me.
It's
people
pretty terrible here.
And people ask me all the time, so what are they doing to stop this? There used to be in tribes warrior societies that protected the women.
We have that here now.
Good. I'm glad.
We have the Akichita Society that women then call them if they're running late. They call them, and the Warrior Society get out there and escort the women home. Because over the last few months, they have been threatened. The car came up on them, came up beside them, and there was guns pointed at them, telling them to pull over.
Boy!
Women got scared. And so they reached out, and then they formed a warrior society, Akichita society,
Mhm.
with a phone call. They're only a phone call away, and they'll, it don't matter what time of the evening or night, they'll go out and secure and escort the lady home, because she's out there shopping for groceries and bringing stuff back for
For family, for the family.
family, being harassed like this on these roads that are basically gravel roads. They're not highway blacktop. We have to travel out on these roads just to get to the good quality food.
Okay.
And then being harassed like that all the way home, being targeted, followed, and then followed out of town, and then harassed like that. We can't have that.
And the other thing too is that plague Native communities is suicide. We've got, we ought to. The suicide rate on on our reservations is the highest in this country.
It's 14 times the national average.
Right. And I've had brothers to call me from Pine Ridge and all the reservations in South Dakota, Oklahoma, New Mexico, and even in North Dakota to call me and say, look, we just lost another kid. I said, what happened? That girl finished suicide. And one particular case that has been haunting me for years was when I got a call from one of my brothers that used to be on Rosebud, Frank King. And he told me the story of this little girl. It's poor out there on reservations. You don't have everything that the people out here on the East Coast and big cities have. And she had 4 younger sisters and brothers. And she says, I know we don't have a lot of food. Mom is working. But if I'm not here tomorrow, you'll have more to eat because you could have my share. They found her hanging in a cottonwood tree only because she knew that she was hungry, but she didn't want her brothers and sisters to go hungry another day. And that's how desperate it is. Yes.
Can I ask something? I guess as someone who does not live on the res and doesn't know what it's like, in my opinion, I would feel like that's the most hopeless situation, because our government obviously is not living up to the promises that they made for our people. Our people are getting subpar food, subpar everything, medical services and stuff like this. This is definitely not being taken care of. So I want to know what can be done in order to make our people more sustainable, because I understand if they are sustainable, they're not going to get the government funds. That's what I was told. If they bring in a certain amount of income into the res, they're not going to get the government assistance. But in my opinion, it is not worth it. It's not worth it.
You know what? I'm going to tell you something. I've had a project in the back of my mind for a very long time. There are companies that build these greenhouses, and some of them are as big as an NFL football field. And I want to start a project. I want to talk to these manufacturers and see if they would help me to put a greenhouse on Pine Ridge where everybody can work it and everybody can share. And that would bring the fresh vegetables and the fresh fruits to the res. But if there's an overabundance, give it to somebody on the next reservation, So that's been one of my pet peeves for a couple of years now. And
is there anything against having a greenhouse on the res that would actually produce food and crops for
No,
the community?
no,
So why hasn't this been done before?
because the initial investment is close to $1 million. But I don't know. When I was out there, I think a lot of the people out there, families may get maybe $600, $700, $800 a month to live on. So they spend maybe $500, $600 out of that, and they have $200 left just for food. But they're not getting any kind of good food because that little grocery store up there on Pine Ridge, they jack up the prices so high, it's crazy. So what I would like to do is to get people that are listening and watching this broadcast tonight, if you're interested in helping us, we need $1 million just to build a greenhouse and the boxes inside, the planters and everything. Now, if the people are spending $500 a month on food, which is not worth 2 cents, then I want to propose this. Out of that $500, give $300 a month into the project, and it will be a project that's owned by the people of Pine Ridge. And that $300 will cover a security team 24 hours a day, because you know you need security. You can pay those guys or ladies and give them an income, but at the same time, people that live on the res can come and learn horticulture, how to develop soil, how to plant this, how to plant that, so that our people can live better. You know, what I saw when I went out there the first time broke my heart. They got this surplus food, 3 cans. One had a cow on it, one had a pig on it, and one had a chicken on it. So I said, what is this? Oh, that's what we have. That's all we have. So I opened up a can with the chicken on it. There was 2 inches of fat at the top. I poured it in the strainer and ran water through it. My dog food is better than what that is, you know? So that just broke my heart. And folks, my people on these reservations, they need help. They really need help. I know tax time is coming there and you're gonna get a refund back. Donate some of that to us so that we can put this together and our people will not have to live in third world reservations.
I think that we probably need to start some kind of a nonprofit specifically for that. And maybe that's what we need to set up so that people can donate to that so we can start this and get this in action. Because as someone who once lived on government assistance for almost for 7 years due to just losing my job to a layoff, I can attest to how horrible the food is that the government gives us. I wouldn't even give it to a dog. I would not.
Well,
And vegetables are non-existent.
No.
It is the canned meat, the cheese, all of that stuff is just deplorable. And you wonder why people have high blood pressure. You know, our communities have a high blood pressure, high diabetes, all of this stuff. And look at the food that they're eating. You know, we need to get back to our land-based practices.
Yes.
So anyway, I think we should start that 501c3, Leslie. And I tell you one person that I know, and I just met her, Gloria, would be a great spokesman for that. And because it's in her heart who she is and how she feels about her people. And of course, with her husband, she cares for us. You know what I'm saying? And then I've got my brother down there, Ramon Grimaldi. He could run his mouth, so you know that would help.
Gee, thanks, Jay. I appreciate that.
Hey, man, it's all about love. I love you, man.
But the good thing about it is what Henry is doing right now with solar, that fits right in with that, because that greenhouse could continue to grow food even in the winter, because it would be able to be heated. That would be a year-round source of food. But you know what it is, and you know, you and I talked to Rudy Arredondo from the Latino Farm Workers and Ranchers Association, and what he said was, even though the government owes him money, the FDA owes him money, he said, we're not waiting on it, because the best thing to do is for us to help ourselves and not depend on or wait for the government, because you'll wait for them 2 lifetimes. But I
True.
mean, that's the sad part about it. Our lands were taken where we used to be able to eat and sustain ourselves, and then you put us somewhere that's just not sustainable for anyone. That's just deplorable.
Do you
And
know? Do you know how these reservations started? When they came over here and started taking our lands and killing us, they had us under the War Department. There was no Interior Department. And they set up these reservations. You know, if I'm correct, tell me. They set up these reservations as prisoner of war camps, a place to put Indians so that they could die. But still, we're here.
And essentially, it was the same thing, since they already had it perfected. It's the same thing that they did to the Japanese in World War II.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, okay, we already know how to do it, so we can mobilize this and make it happen quickly. And within 10 days, Japanese were being stripped out of the West Coast and put inland in these camps that they already knew how to do, because they'd been doing it for 150 years.
And they had businesses, you know, don't forget about that. They had thriving businesses. But the truth about all of this is that this European that came over here had only one intention in his mind. Well, actually, a couple of them. One was they wanted our land, and they would kill us to take it. Number two, they had no form of government, because when they came over here, they didn't even know what democracy was until they went up north to the Six Nations, the Iroquois Confederacy, and stumbled across them that was sitting in council and meeting. And they had something called the Great Law of Peace. And that is where the U.S. Constitution came from, because Benjamin Franklin and some of his powdered wig wearing, tight pants wearing boys decided, well, they got a form of government, so we ought to just take it and adopt it. You know, there was no good intention that came across the Atlantic Ocean, not one.
They want to tell the lie that democracy started in Greece, and that's where it all came from. Look at the Greek governments in those times that they talk about, and the Roman governments. Yeah, they had a Senate, but there was no democracy. It was still an autocracy. It was still run by a Caesar or a king. So they really did not have a good idea of what democracy was until they saw that Great Law of Peace and stole it and then claimed it for themselves.
And you know, my good friend, Floyd Red Crow Westerman, did you know him, Henry?
Who?
Floyd Red Crow Westerman.
Yeah, I knew Floyd. Yeah.
Yeah, he was one of my good friends. And Floyd said that the United States Supreme Court, I forget what date it was, back in the early 1800s, had on their records that Indians could not have title to their land, only because they were not Christians. Come on, Christians. Christianity was introduced to our people at the point of a gun, you know. So they said any good white Christian can have title to those lands if they're occupied by heathens. So where does that put us?
Well, that heathen is up to their own interpretation also.
Oh yeah, I know.
But
Okay.
So I would like to share something.
Okay.
We've been all of this stuff's important, from the MMI to current situations here in the Indian country, as well as food sovereignty. We back in 2008, I opened a training facility around solar, and have been working with tribes. Currently, out of the 574 federally recognized tribes, we're working with 70 of them, and so on their clean energy projects, creating economic opportunities, businesses, and that, and bringing up the quality of life with clean energy, tiny homes, and food sovereignty, as well as reforestation. We as indigenous people, we believe that the trees are the lungs of Mother Earth. So, really important there. So in 2008, when we opened the doors to Red Cloud Renewable, we applied for nonprofit status, a 501c3, to help us in our mission. So, today, we being in existence since that time and having pretty close to 1,000 students come through our program in all of those phases: clean energy, tiny homes, food sovereignty, as well as reforestation. So this year, last year, we planned, and we're expanding with our food sovereignty initiative, and creating an educational garden where students, young adults, as well as older ones, can then come through on one end and educate themselves on what how the foods help our body, as well as the medicinal Lakota plants, and how to prepare them and how to use them. So I just want to show this poster board of our extended garden. This is the Red Cloud Renewable Food Forest Program. This is let me see if I could get a better, but we expand it from here is a greenhouse that's been there for 26 years. This has been the old garden for 26 years. As you see, we have a solar well pump that's a training lab. It teaches students. So anyway, we expand it down here, up around here, to as our educational food forest. So we have a medicine wheel garden we had here for years. You can see the beds are all raised in there. So expanding this and running a fence line across, and when we put it, we took an aerial view, and then we kind of put it onto here. We put the drawings on here, and here it came out as a pipestone. We didn't plan it that way. So the garden is called Pipestone Garden. It's a healing area. So that's what we're doing with this expanding. So if anybody that out there in the audience wants to come volunteer or send some dollars our way so we could continue to educate people around fresh food, how live food is better for you. And I lost my father to diabetes, and I wish that upon nobody. I want nobody to go through that. So 26 years I've been creating this awareness on how live food is much more healthier for you. And I got young adults involved. I got the elderly involved. I got diabetes patients involved. They come and they work the garden. They brought their own hoe, or either they would show up with a garden hose with a sprinkler system on it. They would come out and they would just share. That it was their therapy. So we're we're already doing things that we're talking about.
Chief
But
Red Cloud.
we can use financial support, or either better yet, come out and hang out with us and spend some time with us in the garden, or come see what we're doing with the solar, come see what we're doing with the tiny homes. In May, on May 2nd through the end of the month, 31st, we're doing our reforestation project here again. We're planting 40,000 pine seedling trees here. Volunteers are, welcome to come out, stay in our wonderful dormitory here. They can stay on site. They can help us. They can make friends, make a friend for
life.
For life. Make a friend, make a pen pal, be here, work with the people. It's no better thing when local people, especially the young adults, they start to manage their own natural resources. That's a whole healing thing in itself. They start to understand, and then they start to understand that we need to be lessening our carbon moccasin print, and through the things that we do, helps them to understand that, because we know that climate change is biting us in the hiney right now.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things happening, across the country, weather-wise.
Yes.
So we need to do something here within the next 8 years if we're going to survive. And we, as First Nations, indigenous people of this Turtle Island, we're always looking out for the earth, but we have the CHEROKEE, the generations at our forefront all the time. So we want them to enjoy the quality of air, the quality of water. Water is important. Good food and that, and then bring in unity where all walks of life, the red, the black, the white, the yellow man can, come together and start to move together.
Absolutely.
Is there a link that we can share with our audience members? Because
yes.
I think that
yes, you can visit us at redcloudrenewable.org.
I'll put that in there.
Mm-hmm. Ramon, I see you sitting over to you. Go ahead.
So we've been a nonprofit for 14 years now. We've been doing a lot out there. We know that tribes run on a shoestring budget. They just barely get enough through the IRA government from the federal government to run a shoestring budget, so they really can't do nothing new. But we as a nonprofit can help people to. I'm always looking for funding for scholarships to get people involved in tiny homes, food sovereignty, solar, reforestation, all of this stuff. Always looking for funding. I'm going to be in the DC, the Boston area here next week. I'm going to be coming up there within Boston area doing a fundraising event there. And then further on, I'm going to be down to the DC area and doing a fundraising there, because we got this new project that we've been working on for the past 4 years, which is called the WICHONI Project. The WICHONI Project is going to take our ancestral way of living, Tioshpaye, we say. Translates basically to community. And bringing this forward, we have a parcel of land of 160 acres for this here project. We're going to build these tiny homes, these aircrete homes that are really efficient, and then start to rebuild at the grassroots level, because we as indigenous people, we want to reconnect with Mother Earth again. We want to do that. That's in we're always, thinking that from our heart, from our mind, we're always thinking, how can we reconnect with the old homestead? What can we do to rebuild the Teospaye concept? All of the people working together. How can we do that here in the 21st, century way? So taking this new way and then taking our ancestral ways and then combining them together and building something unique that we understand. That way, we're creating this as honoring the old way and then becoming sustainable at it. Adding the honoring the old way with this new way and then becoming sustainable.
There you go.
And everybody can learn from something like this. I mean, I honestly feel like what you all need to do is set up like little programs like for a week. Have somebody come out and do it for like a week and see it and actually learn from it. Or you have programs that last like a month. Or maybe you might have a 3. Yeah.
We have, programs like that. We have, programs. We could have, 40 people stay here on site. We got room for 40 people. Our commercial kitchen back there can feed 100 people.
Oh, wow.
So, and then we got, camping space, RV hookups, whatever, however you want to do. If you just want to sleep out in the open, old style, using the moon for your pillow and the stars for your blankie, you can do that here.
I love that. I love that.
And, or either you could camp in a teepee, stay in an RV, stay here, stay within the training facility here, and just start connecting with the people. We're out here in this rural area, South Dakota, state of South Dakota. Here there's 800,000 inhabitants here in the state of South Dakota for this vast piece of land. Half of that is treaty territory. It belongs to the Ocheti Ishakui. Belongs to the 7 Council Fires. It belongs to the Greater Sioux Nation. We made 2 treaties with the United States government. We didn't make it. They initiated the treaties. The first one was the boundary, the 1851, which wasn't ceded this territory as native. And then the second one, the first one was broke, so the ancestors went to war. Basically, they had bows, knives, and spears, but they defeated the federal government on the battleground. They were the first nation to ever do that. So the federal government decided that they're going to make a peace treaty.
Was that
and in that their treaty? Yeah, in that their treaty, they want the ancestors wanting put some specific things in that their treaty. So here we are. Today we're here, 58,000 strong. We have our language, our culture, our ceremony. We have that unity.
So was that the battle of the greasy grass you were talking about?
I think that he
froze.
He froze. While he's freezing right there, I'm gonna just until we get him back, I'm gonna just do some advertisements.
Okay.
And we'll be back. And then we've got about 15 minutes left on the show. We have a couple of questions that we need to have asked, and then we can move. Then we can close the night's show out.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome information from Chief Red Cloud. Hold on 1 second. Here we go.
We'll be.
Okay, we're back. I think that he left. Hey, Gloria. This thing working in the background. Someone did have a question, so let's see if we can answer this question. The question was, let me find it. Steve wanted to ask Chief Red Cloud what the link is between him, the Red Clouds, and Mary First Up Woman, and how they were related, and was Chief Smoke a part?
Yes, so I've always wanted to ask Henry the link between Red Cloud and Mary First Elk Woman, how they were related, and was Chief Smoke a part? Chief Smoke was great-great-grandfather's uncle. He was married to his mother's sister. So that's when great-great-grandfather, he was born, he lost his father at a young age. So Chief Smoke then took in his sister-in-law and his two sons and their sister. So there was two sons and a daughter there. And they were raised within, Chief Smoke's family, Tiwahe there. And Mary First Elk Woman. Huh. Steve, you're going to have to, maybe you can contact me within an email and I'll do some research around her. You can reach me at Lakota Solar, all lowercase, one word, lakotasolar@gmail.com. Let's go, talk about this, because, Chief Smoke's a part of my ancestral, maybe as well as yours, Steve. Maybe we're related, Steve.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for answering that. The other question that someone wanted to ask is there a task force set up to find missing, murdered Indigenous women?
Yeah, I think we answered that.
Yes, there is.
Yeah. And I think we were talking about the old warrior societies, right?
Warrior Society, yeah. They're /veterans. I feel safe with them around.
Oh, yeah.
I think they were talking about like a government task force.
No, there isn't any here.
Yeah, and they always shift the burden on that. It's funny. Every time something goes on the res that they don't like, they have authority to adjudicate it and get into it. When something like that goes on, the first thing they cry is, well, that's native land and that's native law, and we don't want to butt in. That's a bunch of crap is what it is. It's passing the buck because you don't care about the buck in the first place. And I also always have submitted that one of the reasons the local sheriffs and things like that don't really look into this is because I just have the gut feeling they know who's doing it in the first place, and they don't want to expose them.
Ramon, I believe you. So I believe you on that one. I believe that it is an abduction ring, like a slave ring.
Sure.
Some of them, it might be, some of our sisters and, aunties have been falling maybe to serial predators or something like that. But in my opinion, if they are never found, I believe that it's a slave ring.
And look, I understand the figures. If you are a Native woman, you are 10 times more likely to be subject to violence than a regular person in the inner city. And you're 6 times more likely to die at the hands of a spouse. I know those figures, and well and good, we all know them, and they're horrible. But you cannot tell me that you all don't know what is going on here. And that is the biggest reason. Why should it take 2 weeks for you to look for someone that's missing and you pass the buck? Well, no, that's native law. We're not allowed to go and butt in on that. Yeah, it's native law, but they're being taken off the res too.
But if it was a white woman, they would have somebody out there within the hour or two. And that's the difference.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what?
And the notoriety, it would be all in the paper.
It is.
And this is also indicative of how they were when they came over here. Um, you take King Leopold of Belgium. He went into Africa and murdered millions of African people only because he felt that his whiteness told him he could do that. You know, my grandfather used to always say, never trust a white man. But you can't put all of them in the same bag either, because there are a lot of good white people.
And there are a lot of poor white people that are in just as bad a shape. And the problem is they keep the division, because if they knew you're in the same shape we're in, if we just pulled together, we could get out of this and everybody could rise up. But they try and keep that separation and keep that angst between Native people and poor white people.
I saw a documentary recently about some young women that were in Chile, that were indigenous women that were being taught by a martial arts master to defend themselves. And I'm thinking that something like that would benefit it, just even to help give somebody time if they're in a situation like that to be able to defend themselves, which is the thing is because first of all, male predators think that women are vulnerable and that's why they attack them. But our indigenous family, they think that they're much more vulnerable because nobody's going to want them or nobody's going to miss them, you know, and nobody's going to ask, nobody's going to seek after them. So I mean, I really think that that's what is needed. Not only that, taking self-defense classes gives you confidence. You know, if you're able to defend yourself and you know you're able to defend yourself, you're more likely to escape a situation because you're capable of handling yourself. And I think that this is something, an opportunity that is really being missed with on the res and in our community.
Well, you know what? At one time, I don't know if it's still good going on, but there's on Pine Ridge, there was this boxing instructor who happened to be one of the brothers on there. And he was teaching the girls how to fight. Told them, look, you don't have to take this mess off of any man. If a man tries to hurt you, excuse my expression, you need to beat their asses. And that's true. That's true. I know my granddaughters, you don't want to mess with any of my granddaughters. They will hurt you, you know, because grandpa taught them how to fight when they were little kids.
Well, I think one of the things that we need to really look into is seeing if we could get instructors to go out there and give self-defense classes to these communities.
They got professional boxers out there on Pine Ridge, Native men. They just need to get up off their butts and start teaching these young ones how to take care of themselves.
Yeah, but you know, also, I'm glad to hear that there are groups that have formed and decided to do their own internal protection. And now I'm not one that advocates violence a lot, but I'll tell you what the end to all of this would be. If those same groups would catch some of these meth-fueled creeps coming on the res, and they start disappearing like these Native women are disappearing, I bet you that would slow that down. And I mean, I hate, as I said, to advocate violence, but that's not violence. That's self-protection and preservation.
There's a lot of land on Pine Ridge they would never find.
Well, y'all, we can't talk about that on this show. But what I would say, I mean, you know, we all have fantasies.
No, but they say that is under the purview of Native law. So let's agree with them.
Okay, but I'm just saying, in the real context of things, knowing that this is existing and that this is actually happening and drugs are coming onto the reses, because really there is a lot of inactivity for the youth on the res. They really don't have anything to do. And so they get involved in drugs, they get involved in drinking and stuff like that. What is needed at the res is something that's confidence boosting, something that is going to keep people learning a trade, you know, that they could go out there, not necessarily getting a degree in a college, but learning a trade. There are plenty of us that did not graduate from a college and still are working a trade and doing something. These are things that need to be flooded into the community so that people can go out there and work and learn something. If there is inactivity, drugs is going to be the solution. Drinking is going to be the solution because they're young, and we all did that. We all smoked. We all drank. We all did that stuff when we were inactive until we got jobs and really started working. So this is not happening within these communities, and there is a reason why this is not happening in these communities, because it has been systematically set up so that we are depending on the government.
It's
Period.
planned. It's planned, but I've got to say this while Henry is there and I can look him in his face. You're doing that. I admire so much what you're doing. I look up to you. I admire you. I laud what you do.
Agreed.
It is fantastic.
Mhm.
And what
Me
you are
too.
doing for the youth and just for everybody in that community. And now we're seeing what you're doing for the greater planet in general, getting called from Europe and different places to put the products that you have in force.
But
I
Henry,
admire you. I mean, I
Ramon,
bow my head and I tip my hat to you.
okay, but
Thank you.
Henry,
Thank you. Stay alone. Thanks.
Henry needs help. So
Yes, he
if
does.
you out there listening, you're getting ready to get your tax check return checks back. Take a couple $100 of it and give it to Henry's renewable energy project to help people that can't help themselves. This is very important. And it's not about whether you're black or an Indian or whatever. It's about being a human being, period. Do this. Do this.
And he's doing it on a shoestring. How about let's take that shoestring and make it a shoe and help him walk better with this?
Make it two shoes.
Amen.
Don't let me hit the lottery, Henry. I'm gonna give you a vote for the money. I'm gonna bring it out there to you.
Yeah, solar energy is great, but there's nothing like the energy of a dollar bill.
Not only that, and if you don't have the dollar bill, go out and help out the community because they need the help. So
And see, this is one of the things that really bugs me. You hear the USDA and the FDA and everything talk about the food deserts within the urban communities. And they have programs that help them to do gardens in the communities. Well, when then you look at it and you see those gardens cropping up in the most gentrified parts of those cities.
In the
Well,
white
how about the food deserts in the places where you took the indigenous people and threw them? You got that program money. How about helping them to wet down their food desert?
Yeah.
well, we've got about 3 more minutes before we close for the evening. Do we want to do some closing thoughts this evening?
Yes, Henry and Gloria. Did you all take?
No, I'll let you say it.
Okay, I guess she said she's gonna let me. So please, everybody, one and all, come out and visit us. Come out and see us. May it be online, see what we're doing, or jump in your RV and cruise the country and come on out and see what we're doing firsthand here on the ground. You're gonna when people first arrive here, they're like, okay, what's going on? And when they leave, they have a new vision. They have a new what they want to do within their respective communities. It's all about rebuilding. We have to do that. There's no time to reinvent the wheel. We came past that years ago. It's time to start working together. Crazy Horse, Grandpa Crazy Horse had this vision of the red, the black, the white, the yellow man coming together under the tree of life to bring sustainability, harmony, balance back into our way of life. Right now we're off balance. So, thank you one and all,
Okay, thank you, Henry. Thank you, Gloria. Ramon, you got any closing thoughts? And make it short, because I know how long-winded you can get.
Indeed, sir. You're right. I can. And the only thing that I will say to people that are listening, take a trip to Pine Ridge, two things will happen to your heart. It will hurt your heart and it will break your heart to see how people are forced to live and how oppressed they are by the system. But then also what it'll do to your heart is that those people have so much love in their hearts, even in the condition they are in, and they will show you and shower you in that love and help you understand where they come from and how, you know, their family has been for so many centuries, and they will pour that love on you and bring you into their family, that as much as your heart hurts, you will leave there with a full heart.
Absolutely. Did you want to say anything, Leslie, before I give my closing thoughts?
My thing is that I just want you, wherever you are, is to take care of your land, take care of cleaning it up, take care of being sustainable. You know, when you cut down a tree, plant a new one. You know, clean up your trash around your areas. This land, you know, it's living. It's not dead. It's not, you know, just concrete and sidewalks and stuff like that. It is living. It is a living, breathing, spiritual thing. So take care of it. Be conscious of those things. And if you live in a community that needs to have a cleanup, start putting together a task force to do so that you can start cleaning it up. This is the only land that we have. So do that. You know, I live in an area where it's very trashy, and it's supposed to be the garden city, the garden state. And it is not a garden state. It's trashy. But when I go outside, I try to clean up my trash. If I see trash on the ground, I try to clean it up, because at the end of the day, this place was given to us. It is a blessing that we live in this land, in this place. So take care of your land. Take care of it.
And, you know, in my closing thoughts, we are responsible for taking care of the next 7 generations. The land that we live on, we borrow it from our children. My grandfather used to always say, I don't know what happened to my screen. Can you all still hear me? Oh,
We
God.
can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay. My grandfather would always say, it's not about the pigmentation of your skin or the color of your eyes. It's not about the texture of your hair or the clothes you wear. It's not about your religion and who you pray to and call God. It's not about any of that. And then Grandpa would stand up and look at us, little boys and little girls, and ask us, do you know what it's all about? And then my cousin Junie, always Junie, would get up and say, no, Grandpa, what is it all about? He would put his right hand over his heart, and he would say, it's how you treat my heart. Don't have anything to do with your color, your religion, or anything else. It's how you treat my heart. From one human being, member of the human family, to another. It's how you treat my heart. I'll talk to you again next week, and it's been an honor to have my brother and my friend, Chief Henry Red Cloud, and his wife, Gloria Red Cloud, and Ramon Grimaldi, who is the executive producer of my television show, my radio show, and the executive producer of my television show, Leslie Fry, who happens to be of Choctaw descent. Thank you all. And I'll close by telling you these words in Cherokee. Danada, Goai, Wado. Talk to you next week.
talking